What's up, Baby Yoda as a side guest here? Just like the old Johnny Carson days.
Right. Yeah, Grogu is
Grogu.
perched on my shoulder here. But okay, let's just you know what? Let's go ahead and get into episode 2 of the Book of Boba Fett, which kind of continues sort of leading us down this path of what's going on present time versus what happened with him after he escaped the Sarlacc pit, how he was kind of taken in by the Tusken Raiders. And the difference between this episode and the first episode was we got it intermixed. Whereas this episode, the first maybe third, was present day, dealing with the people who were sent to assassinate him, dealing with the mayor, and also dealing with a couple of Hutts who were twins and the cousins of Jabba the Hutt, who are there to lay stake to his territory, as it were. And they had a really, really badass looking Wookiee with them in a very threatening manner. So let's just start with that. What did you make of sort of the first third of the show, given that it was more of the present day?
I mean, just for the first third, which will relay into the rest of this episode, a lot more actually happening, which was nice. A good storyline, some like actual, like you said, like I was gonna mention the Wookiee, you got in it, some badass characters, some things actually like going on that made you feel like, okay, we're in the world of Star Wars where like things are, times a billion in the world of, everyday life or whatever. Everything is so important. Everything's so insane. And I thought like, I thought the first part of the episode really like was a good intro to what we got to the, like for those final 2/3 where it's like, oh, we're telling you this episode has a lot more going on. There's action. I mean, there's good, like a couple sequences that really, this episode to me was a good, like, even though there wasn't getting a gang back together scene, it felt like it with like the little montages. And I thought this was like a really good episode to set up like where we're going. We'll get into the full episode itself, but for that first third, I was definitely like, ooh, this episode's already good. I already knew it was going to be good.
Yeah, the appearance of, so I'm going to go back a little bit here to when we did our full Star Wars review last Christmas, so December 2020, not even December 2021, December 2020. And when we were talking about Solo, it's really the only time you see a little bit on Kashyyyk in Attack of the Clones, and a little bit with Revenge of the Sith, but not a lot. But really the only Wookiee you ever see is Chewbacca, right? And then when we saw them in Solo, where they went to the spice mines and he freed all the slave Wookiees, and the comment that we made was that they looked like budget Wookiees. They looked like the suits were on loan from the Charleston Heston Planet of the Apes sort of things, and they just looked very not great. So to see another Wookiee who is very fearsome looking, and the name of the character is Black. I'm going to do my best. I don't speak Wookiee.
Good luck with that one.
I speak a little Wookiee, as I'll get into later. But Black Chrysanthemum. Okay, sounds like a breakfast drink.
Sounds delicious.
It does, but
limited availability at Starbucks.
But that character is known through like the novels and the comics and things like that as being one of the few bounty hunters that can rival Boba Fett. So this character, and we only saw him for a second, but that's not, you don't show a character like that for only a second and then never show him again. So this is eventually going to be a character of some import, and I'm excited for that because he looked really cool. It's nice to see Hutts too that aren't just Jabba. Like
Yeah, it is.
You kind of see it in Phantom Menace when he has the smaller hut with him at the pod race, but that's really the only time you see it. I think in the special editions as well for A New Hope, there's one with him in the.
I'm looking forward to Pizza Hut making an appearance.
Yeah, I don't think
Deep
Pizza the
dish.
Hut. No. You're saying regular Pizza Hut or Pizza the Hut from Spaceballs?
Either or.
Both. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. And then, the other the other 2/3 of the episode kind of reminded me a little bit of Mandalorian season 2, episode 1, because with the Tuskens and we're achieving some task. And there was a very Dances with Wolves vibe to it. As kind of, learning their ways and then teaching them things. And then he's accepted in one of them and gets I just am curious, like, how long is the backstory stuff going to stretch on?
Well, it's going to be 10 episodes, right?
I think it's only 6.
I thought it was 10. Okay. Well, if it's only 6, then we're definitely getting a season 2.
Yeah, I mean, you would think.
That's one of those things where it's like, there's no way.
Yeah. I'm not, how many is the run? Why can't I find this? How many episodes? There will be 7.
Okay. 7. Okay.
Yeah. One less.
Feels like we got one more like backstory and then we're getting into the real deal stuff.
Yeah, you would hope.
Yeah.
You would hope. I'm curious, like, there's some world building going on here. I mean, with the original trilogy, and then even when we revisit Tatooine in the prequel trilogy, like, there's not this massive city. You know what I mean? There's the city where the pod race is, where Qui-Gon finds Anakin, but it didn't appear like this. Looks like New York City, Star Wars New York City. Yeah. And like the one that Qui-Gon found Anakin on looked like Pittsburgh. I mean, still a city.
Still a city. Just a very small city. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's a misrepresentation of things, but so what do you think about Temuera Morrison in this kind of a lead role here versus sort of a side character?
I will say he's not the strongest. It's hard. And I'm not basing this off of The Mandalorian. I'm basing this just off in television in general. Television in general. He doesn't have a presence. And it has nothing to do. It's just like, you can be a very handsome person as a lead role or a very, beautiful woman as a lead role. That doesn't necessarily mean you have a presence. He doesn't give me a presence. There's nothing, I like the character of Boba Fett, obviously. I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan, so of course I'm going to like the character of Boba Fett. But it is hard. It's like when there was the training montage, I kind of laughed a little bit, even though that was serious, because he was just like, he wasn't a serious character to take when he has the helmet off.
Yes.
And I will say, I almost think it's intentional. I think that the idea that he is not really like a presence underneath the mask makes him more of a I think the idea is to make him more of like a likable character in a way, in a sense of like, okay, this guy looks super menacing in the Star Wars movies. You don't see him, it's just like, holy crap, Boba Fett's just such a badass. And then it's just like this bald guy that isn't like, a handsome, a normally attractive person is Boba Fett. So this badass guy that everybody loved. To me, the reason why they did this, the casting idea behind this was like, here's a character everyone single person you love, and it's not, it's not John Hamm behind the mask.
Right.
So it's like you have to like this guy that's, not necessarily this like, diamond in the room. And he's more of the diamond in the rough. And to me, that's the idea behind him. So and I like it in a way, because if it was someone that was just like super handsome, we're like, well, this guy's a badass bounty hunter and he's good looking. It's like, what's he got going, against him or whatever. So I think there's something about that where like the presence isn't there yet, but the way the episode ended when he, becomes part of their, like, is accepted, and he makes the whole, that awesome, like, weapon, like that gave me a little bit of energy. Like it made me pumped up, and not just because I love a montage, and I do love a montage. Give me a montage. If there was just a montage of montages and that was a movie, I'm in. I'm in all the way. Getting the gang back together, building the weapon, getting into shape, a little makeover montage, any of those. Count me in 100%. Montage making a weapon, that was great. So I think it's intentional that he isn't a presence, but you'll kind of like fall into him being a presence. It feels like a Seinfeld episode almost, where it's like you won't think he's a presence initially, but Costanza, and he'll just kind of like hang with you.
Oh man, I wasn't ready for that. I think, well, number one, this is the same actor who played Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones, but that's going on 20 years ago. He's not a young guy anymore. I mean, he's in his, I believe he's in his 60s. And I wonder also, it is different where it's almost the reverse of the Mandalorian, where when the helmet comes off Din Djarin, you know that it's important.
Right. Yeah.
Because he does not take his helmet off.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like with Boba Fett in this series, it's okay, well, when he puts on the helmet, shit's about to go down. So it's almost in a reverse. And you wonder if, because this is, written and created by Jon Favreau, same as Mandalorian, Nerd Jesus, you wonder if Jon Favreau made the choice of, okay, we've got this series where the main character is primarily behind his mask. We can't do that again. So we're going to have him less with the helmet on. It has to be like that. Had to be been a conscious choice on or another. Yeah. So we didn't get enough of the ageless beauty Fennec Shand.
No.
In this episode, I could have gone.
I thought about you with that actually.
Yeah, she's a beautiful older woman. What
do you need to say? She's a beautiful woman. Age is just a number, Breton.
Age is just, that's right. She is timeless. There is no time. Time is just a perception.
Just point out Halle Berry, everyone. Let's point that out.
Yeah. Let's see here. So the end, they kind of accept him. He gets his gaffy stick. I don't know where else you go with the backstory stuff other than tracking down. Like we know now that when Fennec was left for dead in season 1 of Mandalorian and we saw a pair of boots show up, we know that it was Boba Fett. Do we need to rehash that? We know that I'd like to figure out how the hell he gets back to his ship. I think that's really the only piece of the puzzle that's sort of left ambiguous at this point. We know how he gets his, I guess the other thing too is he's out there in Cobb Vanth. Timothy Olyphant has his armor and wears it. Has it and wears it. And he knows where the guy is that has his armor and wears it. So maybe one of the things there is, what's the decision behind him just like letting it slide for a while? And that's where I do think with 7 episodes, only 5 more to go, that like you said, the next episode you would imagine is the last of the real backstory type stuff.
It's got to be the bridging of the gap here.
Yeah, because it's as nice as it's been, and I think like we talked about last week, that there was a lot of questions about how he escaped and was able to show up in the Mandalorian the way that he did, and it answered those questions. I don't think that we need to dive too deeply further into that, because at this point, like I had said earlier in this conversation, it felt very much like the first season of season 2 of the Mandalorian, where it's like, okay, we've got the Raiders, we got to help them out, that sort of thing. So
they always need help. Maybe,
well,
maybe
learn English
maybe learn English, or I don't know, get a couple tasers, get a couple things that'll shoot lasers out.
Well, now they have them.
No,
but I like the
time.
Yeah, sure. I like the Raider with the black, like almost like dreadlocks.
Yeah, I was a big fan. Yeah,
going on. It's obvious that particular character is like the lead, warrior of this tribe or whatever. So
the only thing was missing is whenever they were trying to drive their what are the I can't think of the speeders. I was gonna think of something when they were trying to drive the speeders. I wish In the Danger Zone was playing.
That's a little bit much.
That would have been amazing.
And
like the slow motion jumps and stuff. Would have been great.
That's hokey.
Speaking
of hokey, I will say, speaking of hokey, I thought that it was completely unnecessary that was like a biker gang that he stole that off of. Stole those.
Yeah, that
was
so rad.
That was not. That wasn't.
It was so hokey.
That wasn't necessary. It's like, oh yeah, like they even had like the vests on. It's like,
yeah, it was so funny. I mean, biker gangs exist everywhere in the universe, and especially a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Right. Yeah. So episode 3, aside from like we talked about with maybe wrapping up the backstory stuff, what are you expecting, and when do we get the inevitable cameo from Han Solo / Chewbacca?
I think this is the episode, actually. I do think, because it's been a slow build up. We have no characters of note, like, other than the star, of course, right. Boba Fett.
Sure.
I think eventually you have to give the people something, and it wouldn't shock me if this is the episode, because even though these episodes are being reviewed pretty well, this is not Mandalorian reviews.
No.
And I don't, obviously Jon Favreau is not a dummy. So when he's making the show, he knows these things. So there's this build up where I feel like you're getting, maybe it's not Han Solo, or but it's somebody. I bet we're getting somebody that we know from something else that does something. I expect episode 3 to give us a reveal of someone.
In the end, I don't actually think, and we had talked about that leak that Harrison Ford was filming Star Wars stuff with de-aging, blah, blah, blah. And that we just jumped to the conclusion that it would be in this. I don't know how he shows up in this. I don't think the story works in a way that Han Solo shows up, because they're trying to make Boba Fett a good guy. And the last time that Han and Boba Fett crossed paths, Boba Fett froze him in carbonite and gave him the job of the Hutt. So I don't know how you piece that in. So here's my actual perspective on how one of those like legacy cameo type situations unfold, is that possibly maybe we get something where Chewbacca has to fight the other Wookiee in some way.
Oh yeah.
Like not even necessarily like trying to save him or whatever. It's just that's what happens. You know what I mean? I could see that being the quote unquote big cameo. I just don't. Yeah. I just don't see how it's possible to work Han in with what they're going for with Boba Fett at this point. It just wouldn't make sense.
I don't see how it makes sense, but then again, it's like, things don't necessarily have to make sense. You just kind of, Jon Favreau will make it make sense, is what I mean. Is like that's.
Yeah, I guess.
If he's in it, if he's in it at all, which, like you said, we maybe jump to conclusions, but
yeah,
it would be fun, because I think that Jon Favreau would do it the right way.
Yeah, whatever the decision is made. It's just sitting on the outside, like the outside looking.
Right.
It's just difficult to pontificate.